a fitting send-off for Munster's Old Guard in their last game at Thomond Park. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. The Munster faithful got to say a fond farewell to provincial legends Peter O'Mahony, Conor Murray and Stephen Archer in this game, and they delivered a great performance for that fantastic crowd. So Ulster start off in this one though. They go up the line into 22 from penalty, go to the maul, they're stopped 5 metres out, but then they go to 1 out carries, making ground before McCluskey goes over to score, converted for 7 points to nil. Great start there from Ulster, but then they're offside. Crowley kicks up the line for Munster, and they've been hanging on to the ball and going through phases in the early minutes, but most of it has been in their own half. So now they've got an entry into the Ulster half. They work it into the 22, win a penalty for not rolling away. They kick that to the corner. Then it's scrappy at the line out. Izuchuku competing well for Ulster. Thought he had a great game, especially in that line out. Munster having a lot of issues with the line out recently, but Izuchuku made it even worse to them. But Munster do keep hold of the ball, and now they're going from 1 out runners close to the line. Archer stopped just short before Michael Milne gets over to score. Crowley misses the conversion, 7 points to 5. We then have a TMO review for a head contact from Scott Wilson on Gavin Coombs. It's shoulder to head. Referee Adam Jones decides there's mitigation due to a dip in height from Coombs. TMO Keith David asks him to have another look, basically saying, maybe you could have got that one wrong, but they have a discussion and he sticks with the yellow card. I think, honestly, Wilson very lucky not to be off for the whole game after that one. Ulster then win a penalty. They want to kick to the corner, but somebody has sent the tee on, so they've got to kick for the post. Jack Murphy nails that kick for 10 points to 5. Munster then turn it on. Abrahams with a nice little step, get them on the front foot. Then Kilgannon charges into 22. They spin it wide to Peter O'Mahony. 3 Ulster players drift wide to stop him going for the corner. He steps back inside. Probably could have got there himself, but pops the ball off to Farrell to score. Conversion missed, and we're tied up at 10 all. Munster then trying to run the ball out of the 22. They knock on, and Ulster move it to the right. Postlethwaite with great strength and speed, and then the reach to ground on the line. Jack Murphy converts from the touchline, 17 points to 10. Top from the tee. Murphy was fantastic today. Tyrone Byrne then charges Murphy down at the restart though, and gets the ball to score. Crowley converts for 70 points all. Neither team seemed to want to lead at this stage of the game. Then we have a neck roll from Ulster, and Munster go up the line. But again, can't get that line out right. Struggled, and for so many times, but this time Byrne actually claims it, and they have kind of a little, there were times when the likes of Byrne and O'Mahony were brilliant in the line out, but it seems to be just a system issue with them that they need to sort out. But this one, he claims it. They then win a penalty, and we have a big round of handbags. Both teams get a warning, and Munster kick to the corner. Byrne again in the line out claims it, and then they maul over. Scannell is the score. That's their bonus point try. Crowley converts for 24 points to 17. Ulster then work the ball into the Munster 22, but Farrell gets in there and turns the ball over. Munster kicked the ball clear, and Farrell, he got player of the match and well deserved, like both in attack and defence. Thought he was fantastic today. Ulster come again. Byrne gets over the ball this time, but there's no clear release from him, so Murphy pops it over from in front. 24 points to 20 was the halftime score. Second half then, Byrne over the ball early. This time he's legal. Munster win the penalty. They go to the corner. Ulster take Peter O'Mahony early in the line-out, and we also have then straight after that have a high tackle as we play on. Munster tapped the penalty, but then they knock it on and the chance was gone. And a big hit there from Rob Herring to dislodge the ball in the carry. Both teams then striving to get some kind of momentum as the ball changes hands a number of times. Some really very competitive at the breakdown. The likes of McCluskey and, who was Treadwell was in there as well for Ulster. Then you have Nankiville, Peter O'Mahony, Byrne, all, Farrell as well for Munster as well. Just lots of turnovers from the two teams at that stage. Then Munster get a turnover and they break from it. Kilgannon doing well up the left. Ulster pinged for playing the 9 then. Advantage to Munster. Then McCluskey cynically comes offside and he goes to the bin because they've just given away a penalty, and then he does that. And Munster goes to the corner from that. Coombs claims it's the tail of the line out. Ulster do really well to sack it immediately, but then Munster shift it inside. Farrell breaks a tackle and he goes over for his second try, converted for 31 points to 20. Tom Ahern then claims a restart and he breaks, then puts in a brilliant kick downfield. Kendellen with a great chase as well, but Balakoon I thought did really well to get back over from behind his own line. Munster though still applying pressure. They work the ball into 22. Nice cross kick from Crowley, finds Peter Manny, who scores on his final regular league appearance at Thomond Park, and it's just cheered to the rafters. And then a minute or so later, he departs to a standing ovation. Looked very embarrassed as well. Every time there was a big cheer when he was on the screen sitting on the sideline. That's converted for 38 points to 20. Meanwhile, Ulster then, they work the ball to within a couple of meters, and they have the Ulster line under siege. Callum Reid goes over, but Barron and Coombs did really well to hold them up over the line. Ulster again working within 5 meters, but Byrne turns it over and Casey slams the kick downfield. Then Wycherley goes to the bin as Munster were just giving away a series of penalties, but Ulster can't take advantage. Both teams looking to get that final score, but defence is on top for the final quarter. 38 points to 20 was the full-time score. Okay, so let's have a look at the stats and then we shall have a chat about each of the teams as well. So let me pull the stats up here and hopefully they're up to date. Right, there we go. Okay, so first of all, on attack, tries scored 6 tries to 2. So, it was fairly close to the first half, but Munster just pulling away in that second half with a couple of extra tries. Possession 46% for Munster, 54% for Ulster, but Ulster finding it very difficult again to have impact actually in the second half. Clean breaks 12 for Munster, 2 for Ulster, and we saw the likes of Balakoon and Lowry, they're getting on the ball, but they just weren't able to find those gaps. I thought Munster, good in defence in terms of stopping those breaks. There were plenty of missed tackles from them, as we see defenders beating 20 each, but Munster converting more than half of their defenders beaten into breaks, whereas Ulster only 10% of theirs. So you got to give credit to the Munster defence on that one. I think offloads then 15 to 11, so both teams looking to keep that ball alive. Onto defence then, territory 43% to 57 for Ulster. So Ulster playing most of the game in the Munster half, but not able to create enough chances and not able to take advantage of the chances that did create as well. Number of tackles 161 to 125. Missed tackles 20 each. Tackle success 79% for Munster isn't brilliant, but Ulster a lowly 75 for them. Turnovers 1 then 10 for Munster and 3 for Ulster. One of the reasons why Ulster found it very hard to take advantage of their territory gains was because of Munster, turning the ball over so often. Kick retained 3 each. It was fairly competitive on the kick in front. Penalties conceded then 9 for Munster, 11 for Ulster. So fairly close in the referee's eyes as well. On to players then. So 2 tries for Tom Farrell, as I said, man of the match, and definitely well deserved. Jude Postlethwaite with 1 for Ulster, and he's a player, I really like him, but kind of feel like with himself and McCluskey, they're both really big ball carriers. McCluskey does give you a little bit more in terms of distribution and evasiveness as well, but I think they need another maybe, half a season or so to really gel as a centre partnership. Successful carries then, Tom Farrell with 9 to 7 from Jacob Stockdale. Stockdale's been in fantastic form recently. He was up for it in this game, but things just didn't fall his way. Clean breaks then, 3 for Tom Farrell, 1 for Cormac Izuchukwu. His break, he got in behind the defence, but there was 3 Munster players covering back, so he decided to kick it. Kick didn't go straight, so it went out. He wasn't, after putting in a massive shift in the second row, he wasn't up for taking him on in a foot race. Maybe if it had been a bit fresher, he probably would have backed himself. The players beaten then, Tom Farrell with 3 and Jacob Stockdale with 4. Meters made, Tacker Abrams with 68 and Jacob Stockdale 82. Again, Stockdale getting all the stats up there, but it was one of those games where Ulster were a few knock-ons or poor decisions away from getting some extra scores, but not happening for them. Offloads then, 3 for Tom Farrell, 4 for Cormac Izuchukwu. Onto defence then, number of tackles, Ty Byrne with 16. Brilliant from him. Obviously Ulster targeting him, trying to make him make the tackles because he was turning the ball over so often when he was the second man in. Cormac Izuchukwu with 13 for Ulster. Turnovers 1 then, 3 for Tom Farrell, 1 for Nick Timoney. Okay, so let's talk about each of the teams then. We'll start with Ulster. Pretty much their chance of the playoffs is gone with this result. No losing bonus point. Probably would have needed a win anyway, realistically to make the playoffs. And I talked about before that, Ulster at the moment, they look like a team for next season. It's this year, first full season under Murphy as head coach. They certainly have progressed in the second half of the season. You can see, but there's definitely more needed for that team. They need a bit more leadership, I think, in the team, especially when you think of the likes of Cooney is leaving at the end of the season, and you had a lot of their kind of the players you would expect to be influential, being out for a lot of the season. The likes of Ian Henderson, not really great for them on that front. But next year, it feels like they need to add some sort of leadership into the team, because there's a good crop of young players there. But again, next year maybe we'll see them kick on a little bit and get up there where they are, within maybe the top 6 or so in the URC regularly next year. So certainly a step on from this year. On to Munster then. So 5 points from this, pretty much you would say they're in the playoffs at this stage. Other results this weekend will probably confirm that, or at least make a fairly certain eventuality for them. Now it's about how high they can finish up, and the game, I think next week they got Benetton down in Cork, so that'll be another big game for them, and they've got to build a bit of momentum as well going in to the playoffs, because the season they won it 2 years ago, they had that momentum coming in. It feels like they've been stuttering a little bit recently, between European performances and league performances up and down. So definitely have to, a win next week, I think, is going to be a big thing for them to get that momentum going in. But, Benetton probably looking to get their own place in the playoffs as well. So that's going to be a tough game for them. And you don't want to be going into knockouts on the back of a defeat. But second half performance here, brilliant. Ulster kept scoreless in that second half. That's twice as well, Ulster in a row, right? Because they did the same against the Sharks, where get a great start and then they just can't score any points after the break. It happened to Munster there for a spell as well. You know, they kind of got over it. Ulster definitely have to get over it at this stage now. But yeah, Munster got to sort that line out. And, you know, the scrum was up and down for them. In this one, it, you know, depended really on, as personnel changed in the front row, I felt the balance kind of shifted from one to the other. But the attack is looking fairly decent. You know, they've got a lot of threats in that back line, but also, you know, players who can defend well, compete well at the breakdown as well. So they've got a nice mix in there. And, you know, but again, I think they have to build that momentum going into the playoffs. And if they do that, then, you know, they're going to be a tough proposition for whoever gets them. And then if they can win their quarterfinal, well, you know, they'll be dreaming of lifting the trophy once again, I think. But good performance from them, and Ulster definitely a lot to work on for next year, I'd say. So let me know what you think down in the comments.